Hi, welcome to this episode of Game Creation. So this week we're looking at making a Bejeweled or Candy Crush-like game, and I'm basically just going through really quickly because we're building on all the stuff we've already learnt on this channel. So we're not really covering anything too new at the moment. Although today we're looking at touch events, and touch events are going to be quite interesting. I'm not quite sure I've done touch events before, so let's get started. So we can see that the last project I did created all these tile things, and we probably could make these look a bit nicer. These probably need to be a bit smaller going forwards, so we'll probably at some point make them a little bit smaller so that they've got a bit of padding around them. But anyway, I'm going to look at touch events today. Now, weirdly, touch events in Clickteam are the same as click events, right? It doesn't distinguish between clicks and touches. So that's something to bear in mind. If you need to, you can use the multiple touch extension, which I'm not quite sure which exporters multiple touch allows for. I'm assuming it's iOS, yeah. So it actually uses all of the ones you'd think in HTML5, iOS and Android, which is really handy. But we're not going to be using multiple touch, we're just going to be using touch, and that, as I said, is the same as the mouse event. So we just want to test that the things are working. So I'm just going to say, right, on the mouse, user clicks clicks on an object, and it's on that object. So what I want to do is, I want to first of all, and by the way, someone made a comment yesterday that there is a way to make this work, is you create it there, and then on a new line, you reference the last created event using the fixed value. For me, that's too complicated. I want to do it in one line. I want a nice clean line that shows me creating it, etc. But thank you very much for the feedback. That's really handy. It's handy knowing that I can do it. Okay, so user clicks on the button, and what I want to do is just I want to give each of these objects a value so that I can figure out which one they are, right? So I might use the loop index, and what I normally do is I use an alterable value, right? So alterable value set, and we're going to set the x, because why not? Set the x to the x, and set the y to the y. And so I can tell each of the actives, I can tell which one is which, right? And so when I click on them, I want the alterable string. I want to change it. I want to say that the x of the thing I clicked on is the alterable value of the x. Now I'm going to copy that, because I'm going to do the same thing but for the y. We should probably put a space there as well. So y is the alterable value of the y, and then we can just test this out. Now this is just purely for testing that the clicking's working, everything's working nicely. So that's 7 0, which it's starts at 0, so 7 would be the last row, or the column I should say, and then down here, yeah, and then this should be 7 7. Yeah, so 0 0 all the way to 7 7. Brilliant, excellent. That all looks good. Yep, cool. So we know that when we click on them, we get that instance of that active, because there are is there, so this is what confuses me here. Is it going, yeah, it's going down. So we've got the position slightly wrong. So the y positions, it's going too low. So what I want to do is I want to subtract the height. So having done that test, I've realized that the Y is 0 at the top, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and the new ones are underneath. We don't want the ones that are off screen to be underneath. We want them to be on top, right? And so the height of this is 480. So what I want to do is just subtract 480 from the Y position. And what that will do is just shift them all on top here. So this now will be Y equals 7, right? Or Y equals 8, sorry. And then 9, 10, 11, 12, etc. And then 15's at the bottom. And so you've got a whole load. You've got this 8x8 grid on top now, which is what I want. So it's always worth testing, always worth testing. So what I want to do is when you click on it, I want to be able to move it. And I want to be able to move it either horizontally or vertically. And this is going to be quite difficult. So for today, I'm just going to be looking at clicking on it and moving it, and that's it. Okay. Now, I feel like I need a data object because I'm going to involve quite a lot of data. And so this is going to be my move data store. So anything to do with moving is here. And I'm going to set some alterable values. So I'm going to have an is moving flag. Okay, so when that's activated, we are moving. I'm not quite sure whether we need that, but I'm going to leave it there anyway. I'm going to have the tile X that we are moving and the tile Y. So the values that showed up on the string there, I'm going to store here. So that we know which one to move, right? I don't know whether we need any more, so I'm just going to leave it there for now. And I'm going to create a new group because I'm done testing. I want to actually do this. Move tile. So anything to do with moving tile will be here. So I can have this in here. So user clicks left button on that. So I want, first of all, the isMove event. Where are we? Flag set on isMoving. Okay. We also need one that says if they're not click. Repeat while mouse key is pressed. I think you can negate that. So anytime the mouse key is not being pressed, as in they're not touching anymore, okay, because touch event and mouse events are the same, I want to negate that. So what I can do is I can actually double click that and negate that. It's just a bit quicker. You can type that out. You can right click and go to flags and go to set off, right? Or you can just go in and negate it now with the newer version of Clickteam. If you can't do that, it's because you don't have the 2.5 plus or whatever. So you don't have that plus there, I think. I think it was introduced with that. Okay, so now we've got a way of telling whether the thing is moving or not. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to say, well, hang on, is that flag on? Is the flag on? And if it is on, then I also need to set the tile X to the X value of the eligible value. And we need to do the same with the Y, right? So eligible value for the Y is going to be the Y. So we know which object we are moving, because we're going to say if it's on, then I want that tile to be following the mouse, right? So, and this isn't going to be our final one, because we need to obviously not have it just randomly following the mouse. We need to control or restrain the movement a bit. So select X coordinate. The X coordinate is going to be where the mouse is, right? If I can figure out, right, X position of mouse. And I'm going to do this in a new line because later on we're going to have this or this, right? because you should only be able to move the X or the Y, but we're not going to cover that just quite today. Okay, so if it's on, it will follow the mouse there. Okay, so click on it and it moves it. Right, and that's interesting. It's got rid of okay, yeah, because we need to identify which one it is. So is the where are we? Alterable value. Where are we? Alterable value compared to one of the alterable values, and compare it to the X. So the X of the X. X is the X, and the Y is the Y. So that's how we identify which one it is. Cool. And then we do the same with this. Okay, so when it says is moving on, it just moved all of them. It didn't know which one we were talking about. So we need to say, oh no, just the one that has the alterable value that we stored, and the alterable value X that we stored, and the alterable value Y that we stored. Let's try it again. Interesting. I made a boo-boo there. Right. So set tile X to that, set tile Y to that. That sounds good. And then if alterable value X is... Oh, I'm being an idiot. It's not for alterable value X, is it? Alterable value tile X. Get there in the end. We'll get there in the end. So if it's me watching, I'm screaming at the thing, like, no, you've done the wrong one. There we go. So that's why we test, isn't it? There we go. Cool. And so you notice is that we click on it and it kind of jumps. We don't want that. So it's all about where we clicked on it. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to subtract. Is it subtract or add? It'd be add. I'm going to add half of the width, right? Position width divide by 2. I'm going to add half the width, and I'm going to add half the height. And that's not going to be perfect, and we can actually do a lot better job of that, so that we can work out where the mouse was when it clicked on it, where the mouse was compared to it. But for now, we will go down, so it's going to be plus, then half the height. And it would just make it a bit nicer, but I'm sure we'll sort that out in a future video. Make it even better. So now it will just go into the middle, right? Oh wow, no it won't, because it's probably supposed to be subtract. That's what happens when you try and work things out in your head. It was one of the two. It was either add or subtract. There we are. So now when we click on them, we're right in the middle, which is a lot nicer than sort of hovering at the side. But what I want to do is, if I click on it here, I'll need to calculate where the mouse is compared to the object, and have the mouse drag the object so that it doesn't sort of jump like that. So if I'm up here, it would jump up like that, which is not ideal. But now we can start moving these tiles. The problem is, obviously, that we can move these tiles wherever we want, and the point of this game is that you can't move them wherever you want. You can only move them to swap with a tile, right? And we'll kind of cover that in the next few videos. So this is where things start slowing down, because the complications of restricting it to a certain degree. So we need to work out whether the intention is to move it horizontally or vertically, and we're just going to basically compare the distance moved on the x-axis with the distance moved on the y, and whichever one is more shows the intent, right? So yeah, when you move it across, you're going to slightly move up, but the biggest change is the x change, and so the intention is to move it across, right? Anyway, I'm going to leave it there for now. Keep your comments coming in. There seems to be quite a lot of people wanting an Android exporter. It's not something I've ever done. For those of you who watched the video a few weeks ago, I had to buy an Android for a recent project, unrelated to Clickteam. So actually I have an Android. In fact, I have 2 Android phones now. It's one of those things like London buses, they all come along at once. Never had an Android phone before. but I've now got 2. So that could be something we do in the future. What I'd like to do really is create something that is good enough to release, and then see if I can release it on as many exporters as possible. But that's going to be quite a little bit in the future. But I have read that, and I've taken it on board, and that actually would be quite a good video to do. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, click like. If you want to see more from us, click subscribe. Otherwise, I'll see you tomorrow.